Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
There was a guy named Tyler who worked the overnight shift at a McDonald's off the interstate in a small town. It wasn't the kind of job anyone really wanted, but it was steady. And since most of the town shut down after 10 p.m., it was one of the few places still open. Tyler's shift was always quiet, maybe a trucker, maybe a drunk college kid or two, but mostly silence broken by the hum of the fryers. One night around 2 a.m., a man came in. He wasn't a regular. He was tall, gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed too wide open, and he didn't blink much. His clothes looked clean but oddly old-fashioned, like he had stepped out of a different decade. He didn't order right away, just stood there at the counter staring at the glowing menu board. Tyler greeted him, but the man didn't respond. After a long pause, he asked in a flat voice for a plain hamburger. No fries, no drink, just the burger. Tyler made it himself since there weren't many orders, wrapped it up, and slid it across the counter. The man picked it up but didn't sit. Instead, he stood in the corner of the dining area, unwrapped the burger, and just held it. He never ate. Tyler tried not to watch him, but every time he glanced over, the man's eyes were fixed right back at him, unblinking. An hour passed. The man never touched the food. He just stood in that same corner, holding the burger in both hands like it was something sacred. Tyler got nervous, so he went to the back and told his coworker about it. When they both came out front again, the man was gone. The burger was still there, sitting on the table. But the strange part was, the patty was missing. Just the bun, lettuce, and pickles remained, perfectly intact, like someone had carefully lifted the meat out without disturbing anything else. Thinking it was just some weirdo messing with him, Tyler threw it away and went back to cleaning. At around 3:30 a.m., while he was taking the trash out to the dumpster, he heard something shuffle near the back of the lot. When he turned his flashlight, he saw the same man crouched down by the dumpster. In his hands was the missing hamburger patty, raw-looking, even though Tyler had cooked it. The man's mouth was red, slick, like he had been chewing it straight without bread or condiments. When the light hit him, the man locked eyes with Tyler and gave the slightest grin, his teeth outlined in dark meat fibers. Tyler froze. The man stood slowly, patty still clutched in his hand, and whispered something Tyler couldn't hear. Then he walked toward the tree line beyond the parking lot and vanished into the dark. Tyler called the cops, but by the time they arrived, there was nothing. No man, no sign of him. The only thing left was the burger wrapper Tyler had thrown into the dumpster, now folded neatly and placed on top of the trash bags, as if someone had carefully retrieved it. Tyler quit McDonald's a week later. To this day, he swears he still sees that man sometimes when he drives late at night, standing by the side of the road, empty hands cupped like he's holding something invisible, staring with those wide, hungry eyes. Do you want me to make it more grounded in real-life true crime style, like a stalker incident at a McDonald's? Or keep it in this strange, unnerving, almost urban legend tone?
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 2.
Back in 2014, a college student named Aaron worked the night shift at a McDonald's just off the interstate in Indiana. It was the kind of store that stayed open 24 hours, and most nights the place was dead quiet after midnight. Just truckers, drunk college kids, and the occasional family on a road trip. The fluorescent lights made the lobby look sterile and empty, and when the fryers weren't running, the silence was thick enough to make every little noise echo. One night, Aaron was working the drive-thru alone while his coworker, an older man named Dave, cleaned in the back. Around 2:30 a.m., a car pulled into the drive-thru. Aaron greeted them, but no one responded. Thinking maybe they hadn't heard, he repeated himself. Static crackled over the speaker, followed by a long, wet breathing sound. Then silence. He figured it was just some drunk messing around. So he waited. A minute later, the car slowly pulled up to the first window. Aaron leaned out, ready to take the order, but the driver's seat was empty. The car was running, headlights on, but no one was inside. No movement, no passenger, just a still, idling car. He called for Dave, but when he turned back, the car was rolling forward, like someone had tapped the gas. It moved up to the second window. Against his better judgment, Aaron followed it. When he looked inside again, it was still completely empty. Dave came up behind him, grumbling that kids were always screwing around. But when he saw the empty car still running, his face drained of color. Together, they decided to push it out of the lane. As soon as Dave opened the driver's door, the engine cut off instantly, like someone had turned the key. But when they checked, there were no keys in the ignition at all. They called the police, who came and had the car towed. The officer who arrived seemed uncomfortable and asked them to write down exactly what happened. Before leaving, he told them quietly that the license plate had been registered to a man who'd been declared missing 2 years earlier. His car had never been found. Aaron kept working at McDonald's for a few more months, but he never worked another night shift again. Dave quit the next week without giving notice. Some of the crew still talk about that car. They say if you're outside smoking by the dumpsters after 2 a.m., you can hear the faint hum of an engine idling in the drive-thru, even when the lane is completely empty. Do you want me to push this darker and more disturbing, like what really happened to the missing man, or keep it at this eerie, unexplained encounter level?
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 3.
A young man named Darren had been working late shifts at a McDonald's off the highway just outside of town. It wasn't in the best area. Most nights they get the odd drifter, truckers passing through, and sometimes people who look like they hadn't spoken to anyone in weeks. Darren didn't mind. He liked the quiet after midnight, when the restaurant was nearly empty and the fryers hummed like white noise. But one night, things felt wrong. It was 2:47 a.m. when the door chimed and a man walked in. Not unusual on its own, but Darren immediately noticed something off. The man's clothes were soaked, his hair matted down as if he had just climbed out of a river. His shirt clung to him, and he left a trail of water on the tiles. But it hadn't rained for weeks. The man didn't say anything. He just stood at the counter, staring at Darren with wide, unblinking eyes. Darren cleared his throat and asked if he wanted to order. The man's lips twitched, but no words came out. Instead, he slowly lifted his hand and pointed at the menu above. His fingers shook violently as it hovered over Happy Meal. Trying to play it off, Darren keyed in the order. He glanced back up, but the man was already seated at the far corner, watching him. The Happy Meal wasn't ready yet, but the man sat as if he'd been waiting there for hours, water still dripping onto the vinyl seat. When Darren finally brought the box to the table, the man pushed it aside and whispered, "Not mine." His voice was raspy, like his throat was full of mud. Darren froze. Before he could ask what he meant, the man continued, "It's for the boy." Confused, Darren asked, "What boy?" The man smiled for the first time, and it wasn't right. His lips curled far too wide, his teeth too gray. He turned his head toward the play area in the back of the restaurant. Darren's stomach dropped. They didn't even open the play area at night, and the lights were off inside. Still, when Darren followed the man's gaze, he swore he saw movement. Something small, shifting between the plastic tunnels. Darren went pale. He looked back at the man, but the seat was empty. No wet footprints, no dripping water. The Happy Meal box sat untouched on the table, but it was wet, like it had been submerged in water. Shaking, Darren forced himself to look into the play area again. That's when he saw it. A tiny, pale hand pressed against the inside of the cloudy plastic tube. Then another, and then faintly a child's voice whispered, "Hungry." The sound didn't come from inside the play area. It came from right behind him. When Darren spun around, the restaurant was empty. No man, no child, just the hum of the fryers. But on the counter where he had taken the order, there was something sitting neatly in place of the register, a small, dripping child's shoe. Darren never worked another overnight shift again. Would you like me to make this story blood-chilling realistic? Like something that could happen in a real McDonald's based on true documented accounts of creepy events, or keep it in this unsettling, supernatural lane?
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 4.
It was just after midnight when Tyler finished his late shift and pulled into a 24-hour McDonald's off the highway. The parking lot was strangely empty, not a single car except his own. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the only worker he saw was a teenage girl at the counter. Her uniform was wrinkled, her smile forced. He ordered a double cheeseburger and a drink, and the girl gave him his receipt without a word. But as he sat down, he realized there was no sound, no fryers sizzling, no drive-through voices, no background chatter, just that steady hum of the lights. When he glanced back at the counter, the girl was gone. The kitchen was wide open, trays stacked neatly, food bins filled, but there wasn't a single person back there. He called out, but no one answered. After a long minute, he heard it, the soft, deliberate creak of the bathroom door opening down the hallway. Tyler froze. He hadn't seen anyone go in there. He got up, slowly moving toward the exit, but then a man stepped out of the bathroom. His face was gray, his clothes soaked like he just climbed out of a river. His eyes locked onto Tyler, and without a word, he smiled, wide and unnatural. Tyler stumbled back toward the counter, but suddenly the teenage girl was standing behind it again, like she'd never left. "You already ate," she whispered. Tyler's tray was on the table, burger wrapper torn open, fries half gone, and his drink empty. His stomach turned because he hadn't touched any of it. He bolted for the door, but when he pulled it open, the parking lot wasn't empty anymore. Every car in the lot was the same as his, same make, same model, same license plate. The girl's voice echoed behind him, calm and flat. "You always come back." He didn't remember running to his car, didn't remember starting the engine, but as he sped down the highway, he glanced at his rearview mirror. The teenage girl was sitting in his back seat, smiling that same hollow smile, her uniform still damp with something dark. And by the time he pulled into his driveway at home, the McDonald's bag was on his passenger seat again, fresh and hot.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 5.
It was just past midnight when Lisa, a 19-year-old college student, decided to grab a late-night snack from the 24-hour McDonald's near her campus. She had stayed late at the library and was craving a burger before heading home. The lot was nearly empty. Only a few cars scattered across the parking spaces, their headlights cutting through the fog that had rolled in from the nearby highway. Inside, the restaurant was quiet, almost unnervingly so. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sickly glow across the linoleum floors. Lisa stepped up to the counter, where the night shift crew were a mix of teenagers scrolling on their phones and a single older man who seemed off. His uniform was wrinkled, his name tag read Greg, but it was tilted awkwardly as if it had been pinned in a hurry. There was something hollow in his eyes, a distant, mechanical way of moving his hands as he prepared the food. Lisa ordered a burger and fries, watching him quietly, a small chill crawling up her spine. When Greg handed her the bag, she noticed the food inside looked wrong. The burger was sloppily wrapped, the bun uneven, and there was a strange dark smudge along the edge. She tried to shake off the unease and left, driving to the parking lot outside to eat. As she unwrapped the burger, she noticed a faint metallic smell. Then she saw it. Between the layers of meat and lettuce was a small folded piece of paper. Unfolding it, her hands trembled. Written in shaky, almost childlike handwriting were the words, "I watch you when you eat." Her stomach churned. Lisa looked around the deserted lot. The fog thickened, curling around the lone street lamp. She jumped as a car door slammed across the lot, though no one had parked there. She tossed the burger back into the bag and bolted to her car. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her phone buzzed at 3 a.m. It was a photo message. Her own face captured from outside her window, illuminated by the streetlight. Her apartment was empty. The next day, police checked the McDonald's. Greg had disappeared. Overnight, the surveillance footage showed a shadowy figure moving behind the counter in ways that no ordinary person could, contorting, bending unnaturally, and then vanishing through the back door that had been locked tight. No one had seen him leave, and the camera outside captured nothing. Lisa never went back to that McDonald's. But months later, she started receiving letters in plain brown envelopes, always with one sentence, "I remember you." Every time, she swore she could smell the faint odor of fries and burger grease mixed with something metallic. Something alive. To this day, that McDonald's sits on the same street, still open, still serving late-night meals. People say they've seen a man, older, ragged, wandering in the kitchen after hours. Some say they hear whispers when the dining area is empty. And sometimes, if you sit in the corner booth alone past midnight, you might find a folded piece of paper tucked into your bag, waiting.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 6.
It was just past midnight when Sarah, a 19-year-old college student, took the graveyard shift at her local McDonald's. The place was quiet, almost too quiet for her liking. The hum of the freezers and the occasional beep from the fryers were her only companions. Most nights she was alone, the other employees gone hours before, leaving her to lock up the store and count the register. That night, the storm outside made everything feel heavier. Rain pounded against the windows, and the neon lights of the golden arches flickered sporadically. Sarah had just started cleaning the dining area when she heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from the kitchen. She froze, straining her ears. It sounded like someone dragging something across the tile floor. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. No reply, just the scratch, scratch, scratch. She tried to convince herself it was just the wind or maybe a rodent, but the sound moved closer. She slowly peeked into the kitchen and saw the fryer lids rattling as if an unseen hand had slammed them. Then a shadow darted past the back door. Her heart raced as she checked the security monitors. The feed from the kitchen camera was flickering, showing brief, distorted images. A figure crouched over the counter, moving unnaturally fast, sometimes appearing behind her, even though she was alone in the kitchen. She rubbed her eyes, but the footage never stopped. She picked up the phone to call the manager, but the line was dead. The storm had knocked out the phones and the alarms. That's when she heard the whisper, "You shouldn't be here." It was low, gravelly, coming from the walk-in freezer. Trembling, she slowly approached the freezer door, the fluorescent lights casting eerie shadows across the floor. She opened it, and the cold air hit her face, but the freezer was empty, except for a trail of wet footprints leading back toward the storage room. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to leave, but the exit doors wouldn't budge. She was trapped. The scratching grew louder, now accompanied by soft, wet breathing. She turned toward the storage room and froze. A figure emerged, tall, with greasy, matted hair and eyes that reflected the flickering lights like black pools. Its uniform was torn and stained, a twisted parody of the McDonald's outfit she knew so well. It moved unnaturally, limbs bending in impossible ways. Sarah backed away, slipping on the wet floor. The figure advanced, whispering names, her name, her friends' names, names of employees who had mysteriously vanished over the years. Every name came with a wet, grotesque chuckle. In sheer panic, Sarah grabbed the nearest item, a mop, and swung it blindly. The figure vanished into the shadows. The monitors flickered again, showing her own reflection behind the counter. Except her reflection smiled at her, long after she stopped. Then the lights went out completely. Hours later, when the morning crew arrived, they found the McDonald's as if nothing had happened. The fryers were cold, the counters spotless, and Sarah was gone. Her belongings were left behind. The only clue was a smear of wet footprints leading from the freezer to the back exit, which had been locked from the outside. Some say she's still there, wandering the empty nights of that McDonald's, trapped between the flickering lights and the shadows, whispering warnings to anyone who works the late shift. Others say that on stormy nights, if you're unlucky enough to drive by, you can see her face in the window, pressed against the glass, begging for someone to let her leave. And if you hear the scratch of a fryer lid in the middle of the night, it's already too late.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 7.
I used to work the night shift at a McDonald's on the outskirts of a city that never really slept. It was one of those locations where the fluorescent lights hummed constantly and the parking lot always felt just a little too empty. The first few weeks were uneventful, just the usual drunks, late-night travelers, and the occasional car full of teenagers. But then things started to get strange. It began with the cameras. One night, while checking the footage, I noticed a figure standing outside the drive-thru window. At first, I thought it was a customer, but something about the way they stood was wrong. Completely still, not leaning on the counter, not moving, just watching. When I went outside to check, the lot was empty. A few nights later, I was closing alone. It was near 2 a.m., and I was sweeping the floor when I heard the deep, unmistakable clang of the fryer oil. I froze. I hadn't touched the fryer in over an hour. Shrugging it off, I went to check, and the oil was fine. Nothing spilled, nothing hot, just silent. But I swore I could hear faint whispers behind me, like someone was talking in low, hurried tones. I spun around, and again, the kitchen was empty. Then came the smell. Not the normal grease or fries, but something acrid, metallic, and rotten. It would hit me suddenly, almost like it was in my face, and then vanish. I mentioned it to the night manager, who just laughed and said the drains sometimes got funky. But this wasn't a drain smell. This was worse. It smelled like blood. The worst night was when I was closing and had just counted the money. I had left the safe door slightly ajar, and when I returned a few minutes later, it was wide open. Bills were scattered across the floor, and the drawer I had locked into the safe was on the counter, but no money. Nothing had been touched except the cash, and yet the security footage showed nothing. Not a person, not a shadow, not even a reflection. After that, I started hearing things in the dining area. Footsteps when no one was there, the sliding doors opening and closing on their own. The worst was the laughter. Quiet at first, like someone chuckling under their breath, then louder, almost mocking, echoing through the empty restaurant. One night, I ran into the lobby to check. Tables and chairs were all in perfect order, as if nothing had happened, but the sound lingered, as if someone was still there. Some nights I swore I saw faces in the windows, pressing against the glass from outside, only to vanish the second I looked straight at them. One night, I almost screamed when I saw a man in the drive-thru wearing a uniform identical to ours. But when I opened the door, he wasn't there. His eyes were empty black voids, staring through me from a distance I couldn't comprehend. I lasted 6 months at that McDonald's. Every night felt like a test of sanity. I quit after finding the manager's office door wide open one morning, though it had been locked the night before, and a note scrawled in ketchup on the wall. "We're always here." I never went back. I don't know if it was a ghost, something else, or if I was just losing my mind from the night shifts. But I've talked to others who worked there after me, and they all reported the same things. Cold spots in the kitchen, whispers in the dining area, and the feeling of being watched, always watched, by something that doesn't belong. Even now, I avoid McDonald's at night. Something about the fluorescent lights and the smell of fries and oil, it doesn't feel safe. And I keep wondering if anyone who works there ever truly leaves.